There comes a moment in every man's life where the silence gets louder than the noise, where the parties feel hollow, the conversations feel scripted, and even the love feels conditional. He looks around, and nothing fills him anymore. That's when a real question rises, not from others, but from within. Who am I when no one is clapping? Not the boyfriend, not the provider, not the charming one, just the man in the mirror. That silence, it's not your enemy. It's your training ground. But most men run from it. They chase relationships like shelter in a storm. But storms don't go away when you hide. They wait. And only the man who walks through them alone, unarmed, unafraid, comes out forged, not fractured. This is not a lesson. It's a reckoning. And if you're ready to face what solitude reveals, then keep listening. Because the longer a man walks alone, the more he becomes. There's a silence that follows every heartbreak. Not the kind that screams or begs, but the one that just stands still. You hear it late at night when the texts stop coming, when no one's waiting for you to come home. Most men panic in that silence. They claw their way into another relationship just to hear a voice, any voice, echo back at them. But what if that silence wasn't punishment? What if it was the forge? What kind of man folds when tested by silence? The truth is, a boy runs from stillness. A man walks into it. He doesn't reach for comfort. He reaches for clarity. And in that clarity, he meets the one person he's been running from all his life. Himself. Alone. No distractions. No validation. Just him. That's where it begins. Not with another woman. Not with another night out. But with a stillness that burns like fire and heals like discipline. Most men never face it. They fear it. But the man who does, he becomes something unshakable. Silence doesn't break him. It builds him. Every time you chase someone just to avoid being alone, you trade your soul for a moment of noise. And noise feels good, doesn't it? It numbs. It fills. It lies. But deep down, you know the truth. That woman who distracts you, she's not your cure. She's your escape. You're not choosing love. You're avoiding growth. So let me ask you something real. Would you rather be temporarily wanted or permanently powerful? A man who can't sit with himself will never lead anyone else. A boy needs applause. A man builds in silence. You don't need her to choose you to feel worthy. You need to choose your own path. Without her, that doesn't mean you don't love. It means you don't beg. You don't bend. You don't become less of yourself just to be seen. The longer you stay single, not by fear, but by choice, the deeper your roots grow. And the deeper your roots, the stronger your storm. Weak men avoid solitude. Strong men are forged by it. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't flex. It doesn't post. It doesn't chase. It simply is. And you'll only find it when you stop trying to be enough for someone else. Most men are terrified of not being chosen. So they lower their standards. They shrink their voice. They become smaller just to be held. But held by who? Someone who only wants the version of you that's convenient? If you have to become less to be loved, is it even love? A man who knows his worth walks. A boy who doubts begs. And that's the difference between power and desperation. Solitude isn't a sentence. It's a sanctuary. You don't need someone to remind you who you are. You need the space to remember it for yourself. So stop chasing hands that let go easily. Start becoming the man whose presence is a storm no one forgets. Because when your presence has gravity, the world comes to you. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you didn't recognize the man staring back? Not because you've changed, but because you've forgotten who you were before all the noise, before the compromises, before the quiet begging disguised as romance. That's what constant relationships do to men who aren't rooted. They chip away at your edges. And one day, you wake up and realize you become soft in all the wrong places. But here's the thing. The man you were meant to be still lives inside you. He's not dead. He's just been buried under convenience, under need, under fear. You don't find him by chasing another woman. You find him by walking into the fire of your own solitude. Burn away the weakness. Burn away the approval-seeking. Burn away the noise. And what remains, that's your core. That's your code. That's the man you were always supposed to be. The storm isn't outside. It's in you. Wake it up. They say time alone makes a man bitter. I say it makes him clear. Because there's a difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation happens when you run from the world. Solitude happens when you run into yourself. One breaks you down. The other builds you up. But you can't fake it. You can't pretend to be whole while secretly fearing silence. You have to earn your stillness. You have to bleed in it. You have to sit in the dark long enough that your own mind stops being your enemy. Most men will never do that. They'll keep filling their lives with women, parties, noise, thinking distraction equals purpose. But the man who endures the silence long enough will find something sharper than pleasure, clarity. And in clarity, power is born. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't ask for respect, but commands it. It's a strange thing, the way women sense power. Not in what you say, but in what you don't need to say. They feel it when you don't flinch, when you don't chase, when you don't break under pressure. That kind of man doesn't need to prove he's a man. He just is. And that presence, that weight, it only comes from solitude. You want to be irresistible? Stop trying. Start building. Build your body. Build your mind. Build your purpose so deeply that she doesn't complete you. She joins you. And if she doesn't, you don't fall apart. Because you weren't built for her. You were built for you. The man who walks through fire alone doesn't walk the same as the man who never dared. His presence is different. His stillness speaks louder than noise. You want to be magnetic? Let go of need. Let go of approval. Stand still and watch the world adjust to your gravity. There will be nights where you feel forgotten, not just by her, but by life itself. The silence will stretch like a desert. No voice, no warmth, no hand reaching back. And in that moment, you will want to run, to text her, to fix something, to fill the void. Don't. That's not your enemy. That's your test. Every man faces it. The question is, will you collapse into it or rise through it? Boys fold under loneliness. Men are forged by it. You don't rise by being chosen. You rise by choosing yourself when no one else does. This is a season where you plant roots, not chase leaves. This is a silence where your future self is watching you, asking, did you build or did you beg? So next time the phone doesn't ring, don't hear rejection. Hear opportunity. Because every second you don't run from yourself, you get closer to the man no one can break. The longer you remain single, not because you can't find someone, but because you choose not to settle, the more dangerous you become. Not in a violent way, not in a loud way, but in a still, focused, deliberate way. You start seeing through the masks, the games, the shallow attempt at affection that once had you hooked now look empty. And you look different too, not on the outside, but in the way you carry yourself, the way you don't rush, the way you don't need. Women feel it, men respect it. But here's the catch. None of that happens overnight. You have to earn it. You have to wake up every day and choose purpose over comfort. Build when no one's watching. Grow when no one's clapping. That's what makes you lethal. That's what makes you rare. Because most men don't become better when they're alone. They just become lonelier. You build. You sharpen. You rise. You ever wonder why the best warriors train in silence? Why the greatest kings don't shout? Because true strength doesn't scream. It stands. It holds. It absorbs pressure like steel forged in fire. And you are in that fire now. Every moment you choose not to chase. Every time you let go with grace. Every night you go to bed with peace instead of panic. You are sharpening your blade. And no one can take that from you. Not her. Not rejection. Not life. You are no longer the man who needs to be chosen. You are the man who chooses. And that shift, that silent, internal shift, it changes everything. The fire doesn't destroy you. It strips away what was never real. And what remains is a man who doesn't flinch when tested. What kind of man do you want to be? One who reacts from fear or one who responds from power? Let me tell you something they'll never say out loud. When you stop needing love to feel whole, the entire world starts seeing you differently. Because need is loud, need is fragile, need bends. But wholeness is silent and solid. It draws people in, not through charm, but through presence. You stop performing, you stop proving, you start being. And in that state, you attract not followers, but equals. That woman who once confused you, she senses the shift. She can no longer toy with a man who doesn't chase. No longer control a man who doesn't beg. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're deliberate. You're not avoiding love. You're just not willing to trade your soul for it. And in that calm refusal, you become unforgettable, not because of what you say, but because of who you no longer need to be. A man who has walked the fire of solitude doesn't fear loss. He's lived it. He's slept next to the echo of silence. He's broken, bled, rebuilt, and done it all without applause. That kind of man doesn't crumble when things get quiet. He's already faced a storm within. So when she leaves, when the phone goes silent, when life throws another punch, he doesn't chase comfort. He centers himself. The storm no longer shakes him. It obeys him. Why? Because he's not holding on to anyone to stay balanced. He's become his own anchor. You think love is strength? Love is beautiful. But self-respect? That's sacred. That's the kind of power no one can steal. That's the kind of presence that doesn't just enter a room. It shifts it. Because men who walk alone long enough, they walk indifferently. You don't raise your standards by talking about them. You raise them by enforcing them when no one's watching. By walking away from a beautiful woman who plays games. By saying no when everything in you wants to say yes just to feel wanted. And yes, it hurts. At first, it burns like hell. But what's pain when compared to purpose? What's loneliness when weighed against the dignity of being a man who doesn't flinch? Every time you hold your line, you etch your identity deeper. You carve your worth into stone. And it shows. In your eyes. In your walk. In your voice. You're not louder. You're heavier. More grounded. More dangerous in the best way possible. And that weight, earned through solitude, is what makes others lean in. Because they can feel it. Even if they don't understand it. They feel it. There's a gravity to a man who no longer needs to be chosen. A stillness in him that makes noise feel foolish. He listens more than he speaks. He moves with intention. He's not in a rush, because he's not running from himself. Most men seek peace in women. But the rare man, he brings peace to them. That's the difference. You're not here to be saved. You're here to be the storm. Not chaotic, but undeniable. Not reckless, but powerful. And that only happens when you stop seeing solitude as a waiting room and start seeing it as your arena. You train here. You bleed here. You become unshakable here. So the next time you feel behind in life, ask yourself, behind who? Behind what? The real ones aren't racing. They're building. Quietly. Brutally. Purposefully. You want to be admired? Not for your looks. Not for your money. But for your presence? Then disappear. Not from the world, but from the need for it. Detach. Let go of the urge to be seen, praised, adored. And in that vanishing, in that refusal to be on display, something strange will happen. You'll become more visible than ever. Because people chase what they can't easily define. And a man who's mastered his solitude is the most mysterious presence in any room. He doesn't talk to fill silence. He lets silence speak for him. He doesn't prove his masculinity. He embodies it, not through posture, but through patience. Not through charm, but through conviction. You don't become that man by accident. You become him by burning away everything that was performative. And when all that's left is truth, watch how the world changes. The day you stop trying to prove you're enough is the day you finally are. Not because someone validated you, but because you stopped waiting to be validated. Do you know what happens when you stop chasing people who don't see you? You begin to see yourself. And what you'll see might shock you. You're not average. You were just distracted. You're not weak. You were just tired from pleasing everyone. You're not unworthy. You were just surrounded by people who couldn't see your worth. A man who's been alone long enough learns something most never will. Validation is rented, but self-respect is owned. You can lose approval, but no one can take your code. So burn the scripts, drop the masks, let them misunderstand you. Because the man who's misunderstood in silence is often the one the world remembers in greatness. Sometimes, the test isn't how much you can take. It's how little you react. How calm you stay when everything tries to shake you. Most men erupt. They explode. They lose their edge when their pride is touched. But you've learned to hold your fire. You've learned to weaponize stillness. And now, you're not just strong. You're composed. You're deliberate. Your emotions are no longer your master. They're your tools. You don't explode. You execute. You don't chase. You calculate. That level of control, it doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from therapy. It comes from walking through hell alone and refusing to break. So the next time chaos knocks, don't answer with panic. Let it wait at your door and wonder why you haven't moved. Because true power isn't loud. It's steady. It's cold. It's earned. You will be misunderstood. You will be seen as distant, cold, even arrogant. But don't explain yourself. Not to those who never took the time to understand you. You didn't come this far just to be liked. You came to become real. Most men dilute themselves just to fit in. But the man who's walked alone long enough stops apologizing for his gravity. He stops softening his voice to be digestible. You are not here to entertain. You are here to build. And builders don't shout. They lay bricks. Every damn day in silence. So let them misread your distance. Let them question your peace. Because you're not avoiding life. You're preparing for it. And when your foundation is ready, your presence will shake rooms. Not because you demanded attention, but because you no longer needed it. There's a peace that lives beneath all the chaos. A stillness that doesn't leave, no matter what life throws your way. You don't find that peace by chasing people. You find it by chasing your code. By living a life that means something. A life that echoes after you're gone. Most men never touch that kind of peace because they're too busy chasing temporary highs. But not you. You've tasted what silence can teach. You've felt how focus can heal. You've seen what happens when you stop looking for love to fix you and start building love into your own damn character. And now, every step you take is different. Heavier, rooted, not in pride, in purpose. That's what changes a man. Not applause, not validation. Just a quiet, relentless commitment to becoming someone you're proud to walk beside. You weren't made to chase. You weren't built to beg. You were born to stand. Like stone, like fire, like the mountain that watches a storm and doesn't move. Every second you spend trying to be chosen is a second lost from becoming the man you were born to be. So what if she doesn't call? So what if they forget your name? You are not here for their memory. You're here for your legacy. That doesn't come from noise. It comes from structure, from code, from being the man who doesn't need to be seen to feel significant. And when the world finally sees you, they'll feel what solitude made of you. Not soft, not small, but forged. The man who walked alone and became everything they said he couldn't. And here you are, still standing. Not because it was easy, but because you finally understood something most men never will. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the birthplace of strength. It's not a punishment. It's preparation. The longer you walked alone, the less you needed to be filled. The less you chased, the more you built. The more you let go, the more you owned. And now, when you finally choose to let someone in, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're full. It's not from fear. It's from power. It's not out of need. It's out of vision. That's what makes you a storm. Calm, complete, controlled. So walk tall, brother. Stay sharp. Stay silent. Because the man who can master himself in solitude is the man who can master anything. You didn't come here for advice. You came for reflection. And somewhere deep down, you already knew the truth. That solitude isn't a curse. It's a calling. A quiet, brutal, beautiful call to rise. Not for attention, but for alignment. The longer you walk alone, the more the noise fades. And what remains is you, whole, grounded, ready, So let them wonder where you've gone. Let them question your silence. You're not missing. You're becoming. And when you return, you won't just walk into rooms. You'll shift them. Until then, stay still. Stay sharp. And remember, the storm wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you.